Hey everybody, and welcome back to Farm Boys Garage. This is part 2 of the $500 daily driver. I've ordered all the parts. I'm going to bring you over here to the table. I got them all laid out. We'll still have to get some brakes. I'm not sure about rotors, but I'm pretty sure the pads wore out. But let me take you over here, show you what we got and what we're going to do. So I got them all laid out on my little air hockey table here. So I got a new exhaust. Remember, this is turned loose down there. He actually hit a mattress in the road. I talked to him after I got off, got it home and everything, and so that mattress did that damage on the exhaust. A deer got the fender. We've got some transmission fluid. This is the Honda DW1. This is the replacement for the fluid that this car calls for. They do not recommend any other fluids other than Honda in these transmissions. So this one don't really have you have to pull the whole transmission out to access the filter. So we're just going to try to siphon the fluid out and put it back. It holds about 3.8 quarts when you do that. So that's what I'm going to do. Got a new NGK and plug wires. Got a new Ace-in water pump. That is the distributor cap. Got the timing set. It's the belts and the pulleys. Got 2 new belts. Here's that infamous heater hose. I got some seals for the front cover. I don't think I'm gonna need them, but I got them just in case. And I also got some, well, actually, this is actually the valve cover. We will need this, but the front cover, which includes the crankshaft seals and all, I got those. Those are Ace-ins. I don't think I'm gonna need them. We will need this one though. Got an air cleaner. We got some clips for the inner fender, some exhaust bolts and gaskets. I got this crankshaft pulley holder that you have to hold that crankshaft in place, the harmonic balancer. And I got some oil plug seals. And then of course, you never want to start out without some kind of manual. So here's a brand new Haynes manual. It's the only one I could really find. It wasn't really the only one I could find, but the used factory manuals was just way too expensive. And this is the front passenger side CV shaft. It's a Cardone unit. Like I said, I will have to probably buy brakes. I got the fenders. Got 2 new fenders in here. And the bumper cover is right there. So pretty much we are ready to get started. I'm not going to video this because it's just too dark in here, and it doesn't make for good video in dark areas. But basically I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. There's videos out here that show you exactly how to do this. This is a pretty common car, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube showing how to do timing and this, that, and other. But I'm going to start with the valve cover, get it off, and then I'm going to pull the distributor. That way I'll get access to the heater hose, and I also need to replace the distributor seal, little O-ring on there. And then once we get that off, we'll take the power steering pump, set it aside, get the belts off, get the timing cover. We got to jack up the car and get the motor mount off. I've already got the wheel off to get access to the crank, and that crank thing will go right in here. You can't see, I've got you in the shadow, but so that'll go in there to hold that. And these, I believe, there's a lot of torque on these crankshafts, so we'll see how hard it's going to be to actually get it back on and get it torqued right, because I'm pretty sure that's a lot of torque. And then of course I looked at the brakes. The rotors, they don't feel bad, so I'm thinking I'll be able to get by without rotors. But this outside pad is shot, so I think the little bolt didn't get greased or something. It's not wearing evenly, so I'll probably end up having to do that. This fender, I'm probably going to leave it. It's got one bad spot right here, and kind of take a hammer and tap back in. But other than that, it's not a bad looking fender. And I'll replace the other fender. And the hood's got a dent in it. I'm not gonna worry about a hood right now, but just to save time, I'm not gonna put too much. This body's, and it's not in bad shape. It's not rusty, but it's got a few dents and dings in it. So of course the clear coat's faded away. Sun's eaten it up. So I'll bring you back as I get stuff accomplished, and we'll go from there. All right, so I got the valve cover off. I went ahead and pulled the spark plugs out and got the engine almost thereabouts the top dead center. So this is what it looks like. You want to keep stuff from falling in, especially these holes where the spark plugs go. And then I went ahead and pulled the distributor. So here's the distributor. This O-ring on the back of it is leaky. This thing is keyed, so make sure you line it back up right. And that allows us to get to this heater hose right here. That's the bad heater hose. It runs down, makes a little loop-to-loop right there, and goes into the heater valve. So this is basically how it's going to look on the car. That's going to go to the heater valve. That's going to go to the engine block, or the head rather. So I'm fixing to change that out, and then we're going to go get some lunch, and then I'll probably come back and start on the timing belt. I've already loosened up the crank bolt using that tool that I showed you earlier. It did take a good bit of force to break that loose. I believe it's 181 foot-pounds, if I'm not mistaken. I got the book here, chapter 2, 4 cylinders. It's going to have all the torque specs. So that crankshaft pulley bolt's 181 foot-pounds. So I don't have a cheater bar, so I just used a big combination wrench, got on into my pull handle and got her done. I do have a 3/4 inch dry pull handle. If that 1/2 inch one wasn't big enough, but it seemed to work. So coming back with it, we may have to get something different. I'm not sure. All right, I'm gonna continue on, get this heater hose changed out. Just a couple little clamps here. Hopefully we won't have to, hopefully we can reuse the clamps that's on there. And it should be pretty simple. All right, got that done. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the easiest. Those hose clamps like that are a pain. So on this back one, I ended up just putting a worm gear drive hose clamp on it. It was just, I couldn't get it going there. Just ain't enough room really to mess with it too much. So got that done, and now we're gonna move on over to the timing timing belt. But first, I'm gonna go get some lunch, come back and get these other belts off. I got a belt squeak, so I went ahead and got 2 new belts for this. So don't know which one's squeaking, but we'll get that off and continue on. All right, so I got the belts and all changed out, but I decided, since this timing cover is in such bad shape, and the top of it, the top one's bad too, I'm going to go ahead and order a new timing cover from Rock Auto. It's like 90 bucks shipping, taxes and everything. The only bad thing is on the top. I wished I could show you. This car's over my head right now, but the top part is behind the cam gear, the part that needs to be replaced. So I'm gonna have to take the belts back off. These belts and water pump that were on here were perfect. Really didn't need belts or water pumps, but I went ahead and changed them out anyway. So I'm waiting on this. This will be in a few days, and we'll get back on it. Until then, I might go ahead and do some brakes or some other work on here as I can. Alright guys, it's been a couple of days. My stuff's coming in from Rock Auto. There's my new timing cover. This is a Dorman part. On the other cover, this little insert here it's torn up. And the top cover screws to that. So this goes behind the cam gear. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off the, I take all the belts back off and lower this car down and get to the cam gear and take it off. Alright everybody, I want to give y'all a quick update. This was the piece on the top. The cam gear went over that. And right here's a captured nut. It's actually this. So it came loose, it broke free. And that holds the top cover on. So between this and this bottom cover that was destroyed, it was just time for a new one. Thankfully Dorman still made them. So I've got the timing cover back on, but unfortunately I don't have a big enough torque wrench for this. This is 181 foot-pounds. My torque wrench only will go to 150. So I'm gonna have to get another torque wrench. But in the meantime, I went ahead and replaced the pads on this. I didn't film none of it, but I just repadded it. The pads were about wore out. I'll show you what the pads look like. You can see very little left to these pads. They were almost down to the replacement mark. So a good time to get them before they destroy the rotors. So it's unfortunate that I can't tighten that up. Everything else on this side is good to go, except for the belts, of course. Still got to do the valve cover and the belts. But I'm gonna wait until I get this torqued. I'm gonna go ahead and put the valve cover on, crank it up, make sure everything runs good before I go any further, put the belts on and all that. So I guess now I'm gonna jack it up and try to get that exhaust pipe off. And also, I could go ahead and pick this motor up and get the motor mount back on it. I think I can go ahead and do that now. Alright everybody, is the next day or the day after. I guess it's the day after because I didn't do anything down here yesterday. But anyway, what we're dealing with is stuff that won't come out. These bolts are almost like they're welded to this flange. They don't look like bolts. Let's see if I can get a better light. There it is, light. There it is. So they got weird shaped, they're like pegs. So they should come out, but I believe somebody has welded these things. So on the back, on this back one, same way. This one does have a big crack. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to attempt to get this cat off. This cat's no good. I'll show you inside here. See the catalyst is just loose in there. So the cat's no good. This is a center O2 cat. The O2 sensor is frozen in there. I can't get it out, so I'm gonna try to get it unplugged. That's way up in here. It's in a very bad location to get unplugged. It's almost right there in the way of the pinion. I think I might get something up in here and press on that. But so here's the issue. I'm gonna have to buy a cat, and if I can't get this stuff out, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to cut these bolts off on the cat side and then try to just hammer them out. If not, I'm going to probably end up having to cut this pipe and find another flange to weld onto it. I'd really rather not, but it's becoming a cluster. So I decided to go ahead and put the exhaust pipe on the manifold, and of course aftermarket crap sucks. So it's tied up there, got the gasket on, everything's good and snug. It looks like it fits good around the oil pan, but when you get up to here, there's this thing here, see, this is flexible. So to support this pipe, you got this thing here, but unfortunately, it don't even come close to reaching the bolt holes. So it was bent way back. I bent it forward, but I think it's this little bend right here is what's got us. It's on both sides though, so I don't know how it's supposed to be, but they just ain't long enough. So I don't know what to do about that. We'll have to smoke on that a little bit. I did get the cat off. I just cut the bolts on the back side of this. And this stuff is very thin. Very thin up here, here and here. This one's all right, but the other two is thin. But you can see it had an exhaust leak. It's been leaking there for a while. So we'll get exhaust, a new cat and an O2 sensor. Did get that unplugged too. All right, everybody, sorry for the darkness, but I've got the crank pulley torqued. The belts are on, the wheels back on, the valve covers back on. It did run. I went and put some coolant in here, and I had a drip. So what happened was dripping from back here at the thermostat housing. As you can see, the gaskets was pretty bad shape. The thermostat looks pretty good. So there's two gaskets for this. I was trying to figure out which one I needed because I wasn't sure, but so you got a gasket here for the thermostat, and then you got a gasket back here, and this is called the water outlet. The water outlet. So you also have a bleeder screw right here that I didn't realize. So that's going to come in handy when we get ready to charge the system back up. So I probably lost about maybe less than a quart probably of coolant. It was pretty full, but it is what it is. So I'm not going to go today and get parts. It's raining right now. Here's the thermostat housing. Of course, you got a coolant temperature sensor in it, and right here is where that little bracket screws on. You have to remove that bracket to get that housing off. Then there's two bolts that holds it on. It was real easy. It was mostly easy compared to some of the other stuff I've had to do. Mostly easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on the brakes and the hash shaft replacement on this side today. In the morning I'll go get the gasket, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and get a new water radiator cap. They do apparently there's a difference. This is a Honda radiator. It's probably the original radiator, and so there's a Denso, and there's another style radiator. Apparently there's two different caps that go to these things, so I need to find out which radiator I have. I'm not sure. Could just take the cap with me and just check it. But other than that, it's going to be over here really in the dark on this side. There's no lights. I may go ahead and string up some lights around here somewhere, but other than that, it's going to be pretty dark. So I probably won't show none of that, and we'll get that done today, and then tomorrow we'll finish up the coolant, top it off, warm it up. I can't warm it up. Take that back. We're going to be waiting on the cat. Today's Saturday. I ordered it last night, so it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday getting here. So hopefully it'll get put on as soon as it gets here, and we can crank it up and go through a warm up and all that. So bring you back then, part 3. Thanks for watching. I know it's been a long video and ain't showed you much, but there's all kind of videos out there to work on these little Accords. Pretty common engine. This is a VTEC. This is a ULEV, which is ultra low emissions vehicle. That means it's got California emissions on it. And that's the only difference between the ones I've seen. It just has a VTEC across the front. Don't know what all that entails as far as emissions controls, but that pipe I got, it didn't quite fit, so it may be a little longer pipe or something. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to make a bracket to attach that pipe down there, and I think I'm just gonna make a little short bracket out of flat metal to go bolt up here, bolt down here, and be done with it. But until then, thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe if you haven't.